I have put this pattern together. This particular pattern goes in columns of numbers 1 through 6 and in rows of letters A through E. So there's a key in the instruction booklet PDF to show you how to put that together. I did trim off some of the borders, and then you are matching up the diamonds in the center and corners of each page. I've placed my fabric down right sides together, so that way when I cut it out, it's gonna cut 2 pieces, a right side and a left side. I also have my pocket bag, which I'm gonna cut in a lightweight contrast fabric. And then all my single layer pieces here, I'm going to cut these double layer pieces out and then flatten this fabric out and cut the single layer pieces. Okay, here my pattern pieces are all cut out. As you can see, I've added the 2 extra inches of length for the inseam so that it fits me well. Okay, first I'm going to take the back pocket and I'm going to hem the top. So I'm gonna fold it 3/8 and 3/8 again, and single needle top stitch that hem. Okay, and repeat for both sides. I'm also going to hem the top of the coin pocket. I'm going to turn it 3/8 and 3/8. Next, I have my pocket bags and my pocket facings. I'm gonna match up the top and side edges and that corner. Okay. And then I'm gonna turn this edge under 1/4, and I'm gonna pin in a couple of places. Also, if you don't want to turn the edge under, you could overlock that edge before attaching it to the pocket bag and then just single needle stitch through it. I am folding it under for the purpose of this tutorial. And then we'll single needle stitch through. Always remember to start with a back tack. Okay, now we're going to repeat that process on this side, except first we're going to add this pocket. I'm turning under the edge 1/2 inch, and that is also going to be stitched through. Okay, now I'm going to single needle stitch through this. Okay, and then single needle stitch the other edge of the coin pocket. Okay, so this is the fly extension piece. I'm going to fold it in half right sides together and just 1/2 inch single needle seam along this pointed bottom edge. We'll turn this right side out. This part of the seam allowance, I'm just going to clip that so that I have a nice clean piece. Now you can overlock this edge if you like. You can also use your single needle machine to zigzag the edge to keep it from fraying. Okay, so the next step, this is your button fly. I've grabbed my awl and I'm going to poke through all of these little holes so that I know where my buttonhole placement is going to be. So I'm folding it in half. You can press it. I'm just going to pin it at the top and the bottom so it remains flat. So if you have a buttonhole foot, now is the time for that. Otherwise you could zigzag your buttonholes on. B for back, of course. Now I don't really know how to use the automatic function on this, so I'm just going to center my buttonhole in here. And lower the presser foot. I'm going to go over to my settings here. I'm gonna come to my settings, and this is the one for your buttonhole on my machine. And then with my needle down, I'm gonna lift the presser foot, pivot 90 degrees, and continue with the bottom part of my buttonhole. And same thing here, needle down, raise the presser foot, pivot another 90 degrees, lower the presser foot, and continue finishing your buttonhole. And another 90-degree pivot at the end stretch here. So that's what my buttonhole looks like. I'm going to repeat the process 2 more times. So to trim out the center, you can fold your buttonhole in half like this. Do the teensiest snip in the center there with your scissors or your thread clippers like I've just done. And then you can carefully trim towards each end of the buttonhole. Okay, there you have it. Okay, so here's all 3 of my buttonholes. Now you can overlock the edge together, or I will show you how to use the zigzag if you'd rather do that, or if you don't have an overlock machine. So I'm going to set my machine to single needle, and I'm going to back tack. Then I'm going to change it to a zigzag setting and follow along the curve. Again, I'm going to go back to single needle and back tack. And as you can see, it's already fraying. This won't stop your piece from fraying altogether, but it will stop it from fraying past a certain point. And not only that, this, when it's stitched in to the fly, will be secured with another single needle on the J stitch. Okay, so now here's the fly facing and your front body. The fly facing is going to attach to the wearer's left front, which is the side where your J stitch is going to be. So I'm going to place them right sides together like so, and your fly notch is right here, which is matching up. So here we're going to single needle stitch 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to start 1/2 inch away, basically where your notch is. You start stitching from your notch. Okay. Then I'm going to push the seam allowance towards the fly facing side, and I'm just going to single needle stitch stopped 1/2 inch before the end where my notch is. Okay, now that's going to be turned towards the inside. And we're going to put our button fly on the inside as well, lining those edges up. I'm going to pin it at the top edge and at the bottom. And then for the J stitch, we will follow that line. And then what you have inside is your button fly. Okay. Now you're going to want to use this seam allowance. So I'm going to do a little clip so that my seam allowance is easier to access. I'm only going to clip in like 3/8 because the seam allowance is 1/2 inch. Okay. On the wearer's right front, we're going to attach the fly extension. I'm pinning it, and that will be finished on with 1/2 inch seam allowance. Go ahead and stop your stitch also at the notch. I'm going to mark my pin this way so that it shows me right where the notch is. We're pushing the seam allowance towards the body, away from the fly extension, and I'm going to single needle stitch 1/8 of an inch right here. Okay, now we're going to finish our lower rise. I'm going to place the two fronts together. And we're going to take our stitch all the way in to this corner here. 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, and I've gotten to that stitch line. I know it's very hard to see, but you're going to back tack here. Clipping a little bit into the rise. Okay. And then this is what you have for your front rise. We're going to press the seam allowance this way and single needle edge stitch that lower front rise seam. And back tack. Okay, the inside looks like this. The right side looks like this. Okay, next we're going to add the front pocket bags. So it's going to be face to face. The face is the side that has the facing attached to it. And you're going to clean finish this curved line. So I'm going to pin mine. Okay, this is 1/2 inch seam allowance, single needle. Now this is a very curved shape, so I'm going to cut into it a couple times. This helps it turn better and lay more flat. Okay. I'm not clipping all the way to the stitch line, I'm clipping almost 1/8 away. Okay, so now we're going to turn this around. Okay, I would press this. Okay, after you've pressed it, we're going to top stitch 1/4 inch. Okay, on the inside, this is what it looks like. I'm going to turn wrong sides together on the bottom edge of the pocket bag. I'm going to single needle stitch that 1/4 inch. Okay, and then I'm going to turn it back. So that it's right sides together. And then you would press this out. Single needle stitch this along the curved edge. The inside looks like this. Outside looks like this. And you see you have a notch here. That's where your pocket bag folds on itself. I'm going to pin this and this notch here on the side of the pocket bag corresponds to the lower pocket opening at the side. I'm going to pin that. I'm going to pin the bottom of the pocket bag so that it catches in the side seam as well. And you can go ahead and repeat the process on the other side of your pant. Okay, now I'm going to place the back pockets on the back body, and I'm going to make sure that I've poked a hole through each top corner of pocket placement with an awl. I'm going 1/8 in and down from where the lines are, and I'm also going to do the bottom point. Okay. So I'm going to match the top and the bottom point, and then I'm going to pin through at the center just to hold it in place and at the right angle. Now each of these edges are going to turn under 1/2 inch. Okay, and then we're going to single needle stitch around and repeat on both sides as well. When you get to a corner, you're going to make sure your needle is down in the layers of fabric. Then you can lift your presser foot and pivot your work. Don't forget to back tack. Okay, there you have it. Repeat on the other side. Okay, next we are going to take our back yolks and attach those to our back body. There's a notch on one side, and that is going to match to a notch on your body. Pin it and finish here with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now we're going to finish with the seam down, 1/4 inch top stitch on the body side, not the yoke side. Repeat on the other side of your body. Okay, now we're gonna sew our back rise. We're gonna put the 2 backs right sides together. And I'm gonna pin this. Now if you want to finish off your edge somehow, you could do the zigzag, or you could overlock it and single needle. I am going to leave mine raw. I'm going to clip in a few times since this is a curved shape. That'll allow some more give. Okay, now I'm going to open up this back. I'm going to press the seam allowance towards the wearer's left, and I'm going to single needle stitch 1/4. Okay, there's your back. It looks like jeans. Okay, now I'm going to take my back and my front, and I'm going to match the inseams up. The next step is sewing the inseam. So I'm going to match at the crotch seam, stick a pin right there. I'm going to sew the entire inseam right to left in one continuous motion with 1/2 inch seam allowance, single needle, right sides together. You want to match your knee notch and then bottom as well. There's a little ease on the front inseam, so you're gonna stretch slightly before pinning. That way your ease is evenly distributed between your knee notch and your crotch. At this point, I'm going to back tack a little bit. Okay, now we're gonna open that up. And this is the back. The bigger side is the back. You can also go ahead and look at the pockets to identify your back side. You're gonna press the seam allowance of the inseam towards the back, and we're gonna single needle stitch 1/8 away from the seam on the back side. Okay, this area is going to be thick here, so you're going to want to go slow to avoid breaking a needle, and I'm also going to back tack a little bit when I get to this point, but I'm going to do it, like I said, very slowly, trying not to break a needle. I'm going to match up my side seams and sew them face to face with 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way down. And my bottom leg. Now you can overlock these edges ahead of time if you'd like for a cleaner inside. Okay, let's do this. Side seam, right sides together, 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so for most of your side seam allowance, you can press it open like this, but the top 7 inches down, we're going to single needle stitch with the seam allowance pressed towards the back. And that's the side we're going to top stitch on. Okay, and repeat for the other side seam. Gonna turn it under 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch with the side seam allowance pressed open like so. You can also press this ahead of time for a much easier flow and cleaner look. Okay, there's your hem. Repeat on the other side. Here's the belt loop pattern piece. We are going to fold this into 3rds. It'd be great to press ahead of time. And then I'm going to stitch 1/8 from the edge on each side. Okay, so we need 5 of these, 3 1/4 inches long each. So I'm gonna mark every 3 1/4, and that's where I'm going to cut. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, and we will have a little extra, which is always nice. Okay, here is my waistband piece. And as you can see, these little 1/2-inch lines, that's belt loop placement. I'm gonna put a little pin at the center of each of these placements just so I can more easily figure it out. That one coincides with the side seam. Let's see. Center back. Okay. Not hard. I'm also going to poke my awl through to mark the buttonholes. And on the other side, my button placement. Okay. First, I'm simply going to fold the waistband in half and clean finish each of the ends with 1/2-inch seam allowance, single needle stitch. Okay, turn it right side out. I'm gonna take my pants and I'm going to pin the waistband one side, matching all the notches. And also inserting these belt loops. Belt loop goes on center back, match the center back notch. Over here. That waistband on one side. Be extra careful when you're going over the belt loops and the side seams and the pocket seams, and at the front, all these fly layers. It's a lot. You don't want to break a needle, but if you do, it's not the end of the world. This is going to be 1/2-inch seam allowance. Okay, now we're going to turn everything inside. So I'm folding it so that the back inside waist is clean. We're gonna single needle stitch all the way through. It's a lot of layers of fabric, so you're gonna wanna be very careful of your needles breaking. Seam allowance is turned under 1/2-inch. So now it's folded, it's clean on the inside, it's clean on the outside. We're gonna single needle stitch all the way around, being extra careful where so many layers of fabric meet. Just try not to break your needle. If you do, it's not the end of the world. Now for all of these belt loops, you can go ahead and press them. But what we're gonna do is we're going to press them up this way with the seam allowance under, and then we're gonna single needle back tack at each of the top edges here. Again, it's a lot of layers of fabric, so you leave your pin in until your presser foot is down, and then you could take your pin out to avoid needle breakage. Okay, now I need to add the buttonhole at the top of the waistband. I've seen better, but it's gonna be fine. Okay, and the last step is gonna be sewing on your buttons that match up with all of your buttonholes. 3 on the fly, 1 on the waistband. So it'll be 1 button here, 3 here, and then you're done. Here's the finished jean. I love them so much. I tried on the blue jeans I just made in this tutorial and I cannot take them off. So I'm showing you the first pair I made, which is this yellow pair. The PDF pattern links for both this baggy jean and a mom jean style, which is just a little bit more tapered at the bottom, classic high-waisted 5-pocket jean situation. This tutorial works for both of those styles, so please take a look, and I'll see you next time.